Welcome back. In this next dark story, we will be talking about how a girl was possessed by a demon and required exorcism in Hindu and South Asian. Let's dive in and explore the dark history, demonic, supernatural, and chilling story. Don't forget to like, share, and please subscribe. Hi there. I'm the lead paranormal investigator, Professor Axel. And this is a story about Hindu and South Asian spirit removal traditions and true events. Warning: if you get scared easily, do not listen. Let's get started. By the time the oil lamps were lit along the mud brick walls of Kalyanpura, everyone in the village had already heard that 18-year-old Devika Rathore was no longer speaking in her own voice. The village sat beyond Dausa, where the dry earth turned red after rain, where neem trees leaned over stone courtyards, and where the evening wind carried temple bells across fields of millet and mustard. Devika had grown up there, barefoot in the dust as a child, quiet and studious as a young woman, the kind of daughter who touched her grandmother's feet each morning and laughed softly whenever her little brother teased her. The first sign came on a Tuesday night, after she returned late from the old stepwell beyond the peepal tree. She told her mother, Sushila, that she had heard a woman crying near the broken stones, a thin, exhausted sound, almost swallowed by the wind. Devika had called out, "Who is there? Why are you crying?" No one answered, so she came home, washed her hands, and said nothing more. After midnight, Sushila woke to the sound of fingernails dragging across the inner courtyard wall. She found Devika standing beneath the neem tree, her hair loose, her eyes open but empty, whispering toward the dark lane outside the gate. "I heard you," she murmured. "I answered you. Come closer." Sushila shook her hard, and Devika collapsed into her arms like a sleeping child. In the morning, she remembered nothing. At first, the family blamed heat, stress, perhaps a fever. Her father, Mahendra, took her by bus to a clinic in a nearby town. The doctor found no injury, no clear illness, only exhaustion and an irregular pulse that settled whenever Devika fell asleep. He told him to watch her, make sure she ate, and return if her confusion worsened. Mahendra wanted to believe that was enough. It was not. Over the next 2 nights, Devika stopped eating salt, then stopped drinking milk, then began laughing whenever the evening prayer bell rang from the Hanuman shrine. She would sit perfectly still for an hour, staring at the doorway, then suddenly turn her head towards someone who had not spoken and answer a question they had only thought. Her little brother Govind ran crying from the room after she looked at him and said, in their dead grandmother's voice, "You still hide sweets under your mattress." On the 4th night, Mahendra heard his daughter speaking from inside the grain room, although the door was bolted from the outside. When he opened it, Devika was not there. She was upstairs, lying on her cot, asleep, but from the dark grain room, her voice continued whispering, "You called me first." That was when the family stopped, saying she was only tired. Before dawn, Sushila went to the small Hanuman Bhairav temple at the edge of the village and asked for Pandit Lakhan Shastri, an elderly priest known for handling cases that frightened ordinary families. He did not immediately agree to anything. He came to the house, sat near Devika without touching her, watched her breathing, asked Mahendra about the clinic visit, then asked the girl simple questions about her name, her age, her mother, and the place she had gone before the changes began. Devika answered the first 3 correctly. When he asked about the stepwell, she smiled without warmth and said, "That mouth has been thirsty for years." Pandit Lakhan closed his eyes for a long moment. Then he told the family that in their tradition, no ritual should begin because of fear alone. The family had already sought medical care, and now because Devika's behavior had turned violent in spirit if not yet in body, they could request a protective right. But it required consent from both parents, the presence of adult relatives who would not abandon the girl if she screamed, and discipline from everyone in the room. No one was to answer the voice if it asked questions. No one was to bargain. No one was to repeat any strange name it offered. And under no condition was anyone to stop the rite halfway once the final fire prayer began. Mahendra agreed first. Sushila agreed with tears in her eyes. Devika's maternal uncle, Ratanlal, signed his name in the temple notebook as a witness, while 2 older women from the family promised to remain near Devika during the ceremony. The priest then gave them a list of what was needed: a clean white cloth, mustard oil lamps, red thread, a brass loda of water drawn after sunrise from the temple well, coconuts, marigold garlands, incense, camphor, black sesame, uncooked rice, and a small copper plate that would hold the offerings during the rite. The ritual was set for the next evening after sunset in the open courtyard of the temple rather than inside the family home. Pundit Lakhan said that if the disturbance had attached itself at a threshold, then it should be confronted at a consecrated threshold, beneath the gaze of Hanuman and Bhairav, not in a room where Devika slept. The family bathed before coming, avoided meat and alcohol, and were instructed not to look back toward the old stepwell once they left their house. At twilight, the village path filled with whispers. No one was invited to watch, but everyone knew. Devika arrived between her parents, walking calmly, almost gently, her face pale in the fading light. Yet when the temple bell sounded, her bare feet stopped in the dust. Her head turned slowly toward the shrine, and a second voice came from her throat, low, old, and bitter. "Do not take me where fire remembers." Pundit Lakhan did not answer. He motioned for the family to continue, and Devika was seated on the white cloth in the center of the courtyard, facing the shrine. For lamps were placed around her, one near each corner of the cloth, and red thread was laid in a loose boundary around the space. The priest began softly, not with shouting, but with repeated invocations, steady and measured, the kind of rhythm that made even nervous breathing fall into time. At first, Devika only trembled. Her shoulders shook as if she were cold, though the evening was warm. Then the lamps flickered inward, all four flames bending toward her at once. She swallowed hard, raised her eyes toward the priest, and smiled with teeth clenched together. "You came late," the voice said. Pundit Lakhan continued chanting. He lifted water from the brass loda and sprinkled it around the cloth, not on her face, but along the ground, marking the boundary. Devika's fingers curled sharply against her knees. Her nails scraped the white fabric. Her mother cried out, but one of the older women gripped her wrist and reminded her in a whisper, "Do not interrupt." The priest placed incense in the fireball, then camphor, and the smoke rose straight upward before suddenly twisting sideways toward Devika. She gagged, bent forward, and retched nothing but air. When she lifted her head again, her voice had changed once more, this time sounding like a child mocking an adult. "She answered me." She heard crying and opened her mouth. Ask her what she promised." Mahendra nearly spoke, but Pundit Lakhan raised one hand without turning around. Silence held. The chanting grew stronger. Rice and black sesame were offered into the small flame. The priest recited lines calling for protection, for the removal of fear, for whatever had crossed wrongly into a living body to release its grip and return where it belonged. Devika's back arched so suddenly that Sushila gasped. Her hair dragged across the cloth. Her ankles kicked once, twice, then went rigid. She did not blink. Her eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the temple gate. "There," she whispered. "That is where she waits." Everyone looked except the priest. At the gate stood nothing visible, only a strip of road, the shadow of a bullock cart, and the branches of a kedri tree moving in the wind. Yet the night had gone silent. Even the insects seemed to stop. Pundit Lakhan rang a handbell beside the fire, one clear note at a time, and Devika shrieked with such force that Govind, who had kept far back with his uncle, covered both ears and dropped to his knees. The sound did not resemble pain. It sounded like anger, like something being pulled from a place where it had made a nest. The priest tied a length of red thread around Devika's right wrist, then passed the coconut above her head in slow circles. Her body bucked against the cloth. She hissed, cursed the priest, cursed the temple, cursed her mother for naming her child with a goddess's syllables. Then, abruptly, she began sobbing in her own voice. "Ma," she whispered. "Please, I cannot breathe." Sushila leaned forward instinctively, and Devika's face snapped toward her, smiling again. She believes everything that wears her daughter's tears. The women pulled Sushila back. The priest did not pause. The final portion of the rite began when the fire had burned low and steady, when the courtyard smelled of camphor, sesame, and scorched marigold petals. Pundit Lakhan asked no questions of the thing inside Devika. He gave no invitation for a name. Instead, he addressed the girl herself, calling her by her full name, Devika Mahendra Rathore, again and again, reminding her of her mother's hands, her father's voice, her brother waiting beyond the lamps, the house where she belonged, and the body that was hers alone. With each repetition, Devika's breathing changed. It came in harsh bursts at first, then shallow pulls, then one long inhale that seemed to drag across the entire courtyard. The lamps began to stand upright again. The wind returned. Somewhere outside the temple, a dog barked once, then another answered from farther away. Pundit Lakhan lifted the copper plate and moved it toward the fire. The rice, black sesame, flowers, and the red thread that had rested near Devika's left hand were offered together. He told the family not to watch the flame, but Mahendra could not help himself. For one instant, he believed he saw a shape rise in the smoke. A woman bent forward as if carrying a weight on her back, her hair hanging over her face. Then the smoke broke apart. Devika collapsed onto her side. Sushila rushed to her only after the priest nodded. The girl's skin was cold, but her pulse beat steadily beneath her mother's fingers. Her eyelids fluttered. When she opened them, she looked confused, frightened, and very young. "Why are we at the temple?" she asked. No one answered at first. Mahendra lowered his face into his hands and wept without sound. Pandit Lakhan said the ritual was not complete until the family followed the closing instructions. They were to take Devika straight home, keep one lamp burning near the household shrine through the night, recite a brief prayer at dawn, and avoid the old stepwell for 41 days. No one was to describe the shriek in detail inside the house. No one was to boast that the spirit had been defeated. Humility mattered, he said, because whatever had come near them had been forced away, not made harmless. They obeyed. For the next week, Devika slept deeply and woke tired but clear. She remembered hearing a woman crying at the stepwell, remembered answering, and remembered only one other thing, the sensation of standing outside herself while someone else learned how to use her voice. Her father returned to the clinic once more, as the priest had advised, and the doctor said her pulse was normal. The family thanked the gods, thanked the priest, and said very little beyond that. By the second week, laughter returned to the courtyard. Govind began hiding sweets under his mattress again. Sushila resumed singing while grinding spices in the morning. Mahendra stopped waking every hour to check whether his daughter was still in bed. Then, on the 42nd night, a dry wind came from the direction of the peepal tree. Devika woke just before midnight because someone was crying outside the gate. She sat upright, holding her breath, remembering the priest's warning, remembering that some doors are opened by sympathy and some answers are invitations. She did not move. She did not speak. The crying stopped. A moment later, from beyond the courtyard wall, Govind's voice whispered into the darkness, soft and trusting. "Who is there?" Devika ran from her room, but before she reached the door, a woman answered from the road in Devika's own voice. "I heard you. Don't answer back."
Thank you for your continued support. Please subscribe, like, and share. Your support helps motivate us to keep bringing you more true haunted stories, terrifying legends, and chilling paranormal mysteries.